told Pharaoh to let my people go.
All right, mic test 1 2, mic test 1 2. Hopefully, y'all can hear me. Let me just see if my audio is working because I don't know who is having a little issues earlier. So let me see. Yeah, say mic should be on, so we should be good. So like I said, if you out there watching, just let me know if you can hear me real quick. I just want to kind of get things cranked up here a little bit, man. Welcome. If you ain't never been here, 40 nights, man. I'm the Kung Fu Hebrew, aka Saul G. It's nice to see everybody tonight. I know I'm probably thinking like, what in the hell is this dude about to talk about tonight? But I'm glad you showed up because it's gonna be a very interesting night, and I gotta trust me. It's like what is it, the Karate Kid? You know, you gotta wax on, wax off. So you hopefully by the end of the night you should be able to understand what I'm trying to do. So once again, a little mic check. If you can hear me. Heard. I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it because, like I said, I got a lot of information to get through tonight. Hopefully, it can be heard. Okay, so I'm still saying they can't hear me. So let me see. Maybe somebody need to turn up their volume. Let me check something real quick because I'm looking at this. All right, hold on. You know what I'm gonna do real quick? Let me try this one more again, and we're gonna see if you can hit a little Google. So I'm gonna try to Google real quick. And if you can't hear me, we'll be right back. Okay, now it's saying I can hear you now. Okay, so maybe the volume was just down. I'm not quite sure. But once again, like I said, welcome. Okay, cool. Okay, so you went out and came back in and it's working. All right, bet. So I just want to make sure because let's make sure I'm
The worst, huh? The worst.
All right, so hopefully that worked. All right, so if you can hear that, you know, and then my favorite reverend, so.
Don't ask. I said don't ask. I said don't ask. No questions.
All right, so like I said, hopefully everything is going on. Like I said, if you're tuning in right now, I don't know about my Facebook comments, but like I said, if you are over there on Facebook and you comment, or even if you're over there on Twitter, go find the stream. It's on YouTube. Just type in "Undeniable Proof that Julius Caesar and Ancient Rome were black." All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it because it ain't gonna take a while, but I got a lot of information to get out because I just want to kind of show you how things work. Let me see. Okay, yeah, so everything is good. All right, so I got the thumbs up, so I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. All right, so here we go. Let me see. So tonight's lesson is called "Undeniable Proof that Julius Caesar and Ancient Rome is black." Now I know some of y'all who've seen the show before. Oh, I want to make that. I don't want to be that big. Let me see. Yeah, because you need to be able to see what I'm about to put up here. All right, so yeah, that's better. So I know a lot of people probably thinking like, well, what does this have to do with all the other lessons that you were talking about? And what does it have to do? Well, once again, I told you that I'm the type of person where, hold on one second. All right. I ain't want to have no background noise. But like I said before, I'm the type of person where I feel if I'm wrong about something, I don't have a problem admitting I'm wrong. If I learned something and I feel like I learned something wrong, I don't have any problem saying, hey, you know what I learned was incorrect. So that is where I want to start off this lesson tonight. So being that, you know, you can learn one thing, you can get into one thing, but let me just go ahead and get into the lesson and hopefully you'll understand where I'm going with this, but we'll see. All right, so let's get into it. So tonight's lesson, you're going to learn about the ancient Black Romans, right? Undeniable proof that not only was ancient Rome black, but Julius Caesar as well. But we're going to get into it. All right, so your opening discussion for tonight is going to be logic, reasoning, and simple conclusions, all right? That's what we're supposed to move when we move through life. We're supposed to move by like logic, reasoning, and simple conclusions. However, I put Webster's definition of those things is just basically something that's just tossed aside in 2023. It don't really matter because nobody's using logic, reasoning, or drawing simple conclusions. So, talking about the lineage of ancient Rome, you got to be able to know, are you a marinara, an Alfredo, or a panini Negro? And I know some people are like, where in the world is this dude going? Just stick with me. Like I said, you got to come in here with an open mind tonight, because I know, first of all, I know it's probably some Italians, and people don't get mad at what I'm going to say. I'm just trying, like people should say, like, what was the saying? They said, I think it was a couple of election ago, was like, facts don't care about your feelings, right? So just let me present the facts. You can either buy it, you can not like it, you can dislike it. All I'm gonna do is present the facts, and I'm gonna tell you where I got it from. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Tonight, I'm not gonna be really using any sources, right? Normally I use the Bible, the Apocrypha, the Tanakh, Antiquities of the Jews, Blue Letter Bible, things like that. No need for sources, right? What's the point of having sources? Because it doesn't matter how many sources you provide, doesn't matter how much you can line an argument about, doesn't matter. So these are the sources that I'm going to use tonight. YouTube channels, all right, good old YouTube scholars out there. Unverified photos on Google. I'm gonna use my Facebook timeline, and then I'm gonna use a little bit of common sense. So let's get right into it. First of all, we got to understand, and we got to be able to get into the go ahead and take myself off, the beginning of Rome, right? And if you're looking at this statue right here, this is a statue of Romulus and Remus. And if you know the ancient mythology behind how Rome was started, it's basically that two twins basically suckled at the breast of a she-wolf, right? And Romulus killed his brother Remus, and he became the first king of Rome. Now, once again, if you've seen ancient Rome, right, I don't think they were out of white marble at the time. So if you look at this statue, once again, and there have also been some scholars, I'm not going to give you specific scholars, because if you want to know those scholars, you need to go look them up yourself. But looking at this picture, it is obvious that this is a black wolf and two black children. So obviously, right, Rome would have had to been started by black people. Let's keep going. The first families of Rome, all right? So you have the Alfredos, or the familia Alfreda, all right? And it's an extremely ancient family in ancient Rome. They were famous for creating what is generally known as Alfredo sauce. Now, I had the pleasure of working at Olive Garden for 5 to 10 years, and I can tell you one thing that the Negro loves is Alfredo. But what people don't understand is when Alfredo was created, or when it was back during this time in ancient times, it was a soup. So this is the reason why a lot of times you will get the American Negro who will ask for extra sauce. That is just him tapping into his ancestors, right? Because he's used to his pasta being more like a soup. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's learn some more about these first families. Here we go. The Marineras, or the Marinegris, were an ancient Italian tribe who were fishermen. All right, so they were famous across ancient Rome for their new cooking method called frying. So if you look right there, fried fish, right? So people don't know that fried fish was started by black people in ancient Rome. Once again, I don't know how this fact escapes people. It's clearly out there if you would go look at it. But you had the Marineras, right? And then they eventually co-opted the last name, right? And now it's just known as like a tomato sauce. But eventually, if you was a part of a marinara family, you was a very, very prominent family in ancient Rome. And then last, we had the paninis, or as they were commonly known, pan ninjas, right? They were an ancient tribe of bakers who used millet to create what is often referred to as a sandwich. So right here now, we have Alfredo sauce, we got frying or even frying fish, and now we got the sandwich. All these things were created in ancient Rome by black people, okay? So once again, pan ninjas, a lot of people want to go back and trace their roots. So a lot of black people with the last name Baker. So that's where that comes from, right? You're tapping into your roots. What is some words that we sometimes use for currency? Money, right? Dough, bread, right? That's you tapping back into the ancient panini line of Negroes, in ancient Rome. So you just got to understand, we just don't do these things for no reason. The slang that we use in our community, we just don't call money bread and dough for no reason. It's because some of y'all are actually descend from an ancient line of Romans called the Paninis. All right. So daily life in Rome. Okay. So once again, if you look at these photos right now, this is taking extensive research. So if you look at what's going on, you got at the bottom, in ancient Rome, we were shooting dice. Now, it's no doubt what color these people are, right? And then up front, like at the top left corner, you also got a little dice shooting right there as well. This was a game that was, you understand what I'm saying, created because in the ancient Latin, not the Latin that you know, not that Italian that they want to try to speak now, in the ancient Latin, that's the reason why we now know why we throw up two fingers, right? Because there were two dice. So you don't even know why you use the term deuces to say goodbye, right? But deuces was a dice term, right? So that's what it was in the ancient, the Paleo Italian or the Paleo Latin. It was called deuce. So that's how you would basically play dice. So if you look all around ancient Rome, and I'm pretty sure you ain't seen this, I'm pretty sure National Geographic ain't covering this, but look at all these pictures of Negro melanated individuals playing dice in ancient Rome. But it gets better, don't worry. Geographical evidence, right? So obviously I have some friends who are what I like to call so-called Italians. You understand what I'm saying? They claim because their last name ends in a vowel that makes them a more solid Italian and things like that. But let's look on a map where Rome is, okay? So first of all, if you look at Rome, or what they call now Italia, right? What does that look like to you? What does the country of Italy look like? I know my people in New York know it looks like a Timberland boot. You understand what I'm saying? See, we don't even know why people wear Timbs, but this is the reason why, because you're tapping back in with the ancestors, man. It's very obvious to me. We wear Timbs. If you look on the map, and once again, you gotta believe in a higher power. You telling me God made a country that looks like a Timberland boot, and we was nowhere a part of it? But I know I got some skeptics out here, but don't worry, the evidence is about to get, like I said, this is undeniable evidence that ancient Rome was black. Now, I know you're looking at this map and you say, Saul, look at where Rome is. It's in Europe. You got France above it. You got Greece to the east. You got Spain to the west. You understand? And I understand why somebody would be skeptical if I was going to claim black people, Africans, whatever, right? In a place that people normally associate with white people. But what is South, right? And I understand you can say there is a Mediterranean Sea and all those things like that. But see, you don't understand how we got here, right? Because if you go south from Italy, you have Africa, right? But see, what y'all don't understand is before the flood, right? Before the flood happens, that was dry land. So that's how ancient Egyptians crossed, because I'm pretty sure you've heard the tales of ancient Atlantis, right? And they always talk about these ancient civilizations that lived underwater. No, we was actually living in the Mediterranean Sea. You understand what I'm saying? We was actually living there. And then after the flood happened, it basically just flooded everybody back. So the people who had actually made it all the way over to the boot, I ain't gonna say they survived, but this is what you got to understand. So once again, do not let the fact that Rome is surrounded on all sides by Europeans doubt you, because that's what they want you to think. They don't want you to think for yourself. All right. But I'm pretty sure you probably thinking this dude is crazy, but I got some more evidence and I want to see y'all try to deny this. Archaeological evidence, right? So these are pictures from all across Rome. These are statues of melanated individuals in ancient Rome. Okay. Look at that hair. That is not your contemporary Julius Caesar. That is not your contemporary Mark Antony. You understand? This is not the guy who married Cleopatra. If you look at these are obvious black people, and you can't say, oh, they don't have any white marble, because we're going to find out in a second. They had plenty of marble, but see, what people don't understand is marble itself was whitewashed, because when it comes out the ground, it's black. Watch this. The whitewashing of Rome, okay? See right here, if you look on the left, if you go to Rome right now, that is the real statue of David, okay? That is the statue of David. That one on the right, okay? That is just not, that's the one that they put in after they did the whitewashing. Look at this statue of David on the left. Afro, you understand what I'm saying? They always knew that the original Romans was black. But see, what you probably noticed is, if you've ever studied ancient Egypt, right? Go back and look at a lot of the ancient Egypt statues, right? What did they do to a lot of those statues? What did they do to the Sphinx, right? They cut the nose off, because they say, oh, we don't want anybody to realize these were black people. These were African people, right? So they did the same thing in Rome. See, what they did was they cut the penises off, right? And they took off the afros, and then they went back with some white marble, right? And then they like put Tom Cruise's hair on the top. And then they made the penises so small, they said, hey, nobody's ever going to believe those are Africans, right? So keep going. Watch this. So once again, I want to tell you about my DNA journey, right? So if you look at this, this is 23andMe, and obvious, that's me, my name there, my picture up there. It says I am 92% European, okay? 78.4% Italian. Come on, man. This is DNA evidence. Everybody say the DNA don't lie. If you watch Maury, like she said, you know, men can lie, women can lie, but the DNA don't lie. So right there, 78.4% Italian, 6.9% Greek and Balkan. Let's keep going. The real Caesar, right? Julius Caesar, aka Jules, was born to Hattie Mae and Tyrone Augustus, all right? And see, what a lot of people don't understand about the real Julius Caesar is, right? They killed him because they understood at the time they were going to create a vast empire, and the greatest empire at that time that they had to deal with were all located in Africa. So if they had a black man leading Rome, then that would have just been black on black crime, and nobody cares about that. So a black man leading Rome against Egypt, not a big deal, right? Carthage, Libya, Ethiopia, them going back and forth, they don't even put them wars in the history books, right? But see, now if you put that white Julius Caesar in front of him, right? And you got to also remember, see, it's like you got to, you know, like they say, you got to open your third eye, and you got to start to think, okay? What's the name of that group from the 70s, right? See, people don't understand sometimes our music, because you got to understand culture is a way we tap into the ancestors, right? So if you go back to the 70s, it was a group called the OJs, right? And they had a song called Backstabbers, right? And I know you remember Backstabbers. Great song. But see, what you don't understand was Backstabbers was really an actual, like, shout out to the ancestor, right? Julius Caesar, because where did he get stabbed, right? In the back, right? So you got to actually start to really put all of this stuff together, man. And I'm telling you, right? And then at the bottom, right? I'm pretty sure, you know, I got the afro going right now, right? But when I used to wear my hair low, I used to go into the barber, and what did I ask for? Hey, let me get a Caesar. Why would I ask for a white man's haircut if Julius Caesar wasn't black? It don't make no sense. But see, that's the thing. They put it straight in our faces, right? They put it straight in your face, and they just don't even want you to think. Like, why would a black man go get a haircut named after a white guy? Don't even make no sense. But let's keep going. The goddess Moscato. See, all you ladies out there calling yourself goddesses. See, what you didn't know was you was worshipped in ancient Rome. Look at this queen right here. The goddess Moscato was the daughter of Dionysus, right? was always portrayed as a black woman with kinky hair. Look at that, y'all. Come on, man. Look at these statues that's in Rome right now. Moscato. Why you think black women love Moscato? You're tapping into your ancestors. You just don't realize it yet. But don't worry, we're going to get there. The real, come on, man. The real Heracles. Look at this right here, man. There are statues all over Rome of a black Heracles. Homer said, I sing of Heracles, son of Zeus, the greatest by far of great men on earth, he who was born to Alcmene in Thebes. Come on, man. Where's Thebes at, y'all? You can Google this right now to see if Homer said it, to see if I'm lying, right? Heracles was born in Thebes. Look at him, man. Big old black dude with dreads, man. Statues all over Rome. But see, if you even look in that top right picture, look at that, man. You see how they got him, but then what's in the background? White columns, more white statues. But if you ever, anybody who's ever gone to Rome knows what I'm talking about. There's these black statues of black gods and goddesses everywhere. But it gets better. Don't worry about it. Biblical evidence. Okay? See, y'all didn't think I was going to use my Bible. This is 40 days and 40 nights. I couldn't not use my Bible, right? So the Apostle Paul was mistaken for an Egyptian in Acts 21, verse 38. So I'm going to go ahead and go there right now, right? And I'm going to show you right now that even the Bible confirms what I'm about to say. Watch this right here. So in Acts 22, verse 25, I'll be reading from the Amplified Bible tonight, all right? So I hope you brought your Bibles because you're going to need it. Here we go. Acts 21, verse 38. Just as Paul was about to be taken into the barracks, he asked the commander, may I say something to you? And the man replied, do you know Greek? Verse 38. Then you are not the Egyptian who some time ago stirred up a rebellion and led those 4,000 men of the assassins out into the wilderness? And Paul said, I am a Jew from Tarsus in Cilicia, a citizen of no insignificant city, and I beg you, allow me to speak to the people. Ladies and gentlemen, where is Cilicia at? Come on, man. But I also want to just go ahead and confirm when Paul made it clear who he was, but everybody wasn't listening. Watch this right here. Acts 22, 25, and 27. But when they had stretched him out with the leather straps, Paul said to the centurion who was standing by, is it legal for you to whip a man who is a what? Who is a Roman citizen and uncondemned? Let me read that one more time. Because once again, y'all don't want to just see right in front of your face. Paul was telling you who he was. Y'all don't want to listen. Let me tell you again. Verse 25 again. But when they had stretched him out with the leather straps, Paul said to the centurion who was standing by, is it legal for you to whip a man who is a Roman citizen and uncondemned? When the centurion heard this, he went to the commander and said to him, what? What are you about to do? This man is a Roman. Paul was a Roman. We was Romans, y'all. I don't even understand like what Bible y'all have been reading this whole time, because Paul clearly said he was a Roman. So then when I make a podcast that says, well, I'm going to give you evidence to show ancient Rome was black and Julius Caesar was black, Paul already was confused with being an Egyptian. But then they asked him, what did Paul say? I'm a Roman. Come on, y'all, man. See, y'all don't even understand what's going on, man. I need one of them yes men with me right now. So, next person that confirmed a lot of this stuff is going to be, sorry about that. That's a little jumble right there, but this is Professor Dwight, man. All right. So, Dwight, man, was born to Jewish parents in Prague on June 9th, 1969. He studied history and anthropology at the Università Karlova and later received a PhD in genetics, y'all. His book entitled Searching for Caesar, The Lost Negroes of Rome was published. If you can see that at the bottom, it said it was published in 1893. See, I don't know how many of y'all have even heard of the white man, but the white man changed everything for all the Romans who was claiming to be black. You understand what I'm saying? Because when the white man came in and said, hey, I understand that the Lost Negroes of Rome was published, right? Because, see, y'all don't even want me to have to start going into Atlantis and things like that, because a lot of people don't understand why black people can't really swim that well, right? That's getting back into, I ain't going to even try to get too deep in that right now, but that's the reason why, a lot of black people, what happened when you go into the water? You just sink, right? That's because your DNA has Atlantean DNA. Man, let me just stop, man. Let me go ahead and get through these next couple of slides, man, because I think I'm just getting all this stuff is just going right over y'all heads, man. Here we go. The real Mario Brothers and athletics. Right here. Look at that, man. Right here. This is what the original Mario Brothers was supposed to be. Black, Negroes. They wanted to show we was Romans. But you know what? There was a Japanese animator, right? There was a Japanese animator. And he was afraid that showing black Romans, right? Some people might think that would be hateful, especially because if you got to, I believe, Super Mario Brothers 3, they introduced what is called the Taniki suit, okay? The Taniki suit, okay? And when Mario would put on the Taniki suit, what animal would he look like? Come on, man. A raccoon, y'all. A raccoon. So they was afraid that if they released a black Mario in a coon outfit, then when you was playing the game, somebody might say Mario was cooning. And then it might be received from a racist perspective, okay? So y'all just got to know, look at them up there, man. See right there, you see their hats was turned backwards in the original Mario Brothers. They had gold chains in the original Mario Brothers, but once again, we live in a soft society, man. They're not ready for this level of truth yet. Look at the bottom. You got a guy ironically named Mario Balotelli, right? Black Roman. Look at him. He was one of the greatest soccer players ever to play for Italy. But he got no love in Italy. That's why I think he moved to Miami, right? And then look on the right. You got a dude, what's his last name? Jacobs? Come on, man, with the Italian flag on. That is your current 100-meter champion. What country he running from, y'all? He ain't got no red, white, and blue on. No disrespect. He ain't even got no black, green, and gold on. Jamaica. Y'all got beat by a Roman, man. Come on, man. All the Roman athletes out there, man, y'all got to wake up, man, to this truth. So check this out, man. We waking up all across music, all across culture, all across movies, all across the globe. Look at the bottom left. You got what? 3-6 Mafia. Come on, man. Y'all just thought they just called themselves a mafia for no reason. On the right, who is that? Come on, if you grew up in the 90s, Junior Mafia. And what was that really, really short dude's name? Lil C's, which was short for what? Lil Caesar. Come on. But once again, man, I could point out stuff like this all day. But see, the problem is you just want to keep believing that you're African. A lot of y'all want to believe that, it's a lot of people out there believe they're Aboriginal, they're American Indians. It's a lot of different things out there that black people believe. I was watching something on Netflix the other day. Now black people telling me we was Vikings. You know what I'm saying? Next thing we're gonna be Chinese, and we was right next to Genghis Khan and something like. But y'all, I'm telling y'all, this Roman thing, bro, we got to get into it. Top right, that's Lil Nas X performing Panini, y'all. Panini. And I already told you who the Paninis were. And then during the black exploitation era of the 70s. Check this out. What's the name of that movie? Black Caesar, man. So I don't even really know what else to say at this point, man. But look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give y'all a little second, because if you want to verify anything that I just said, probably about the last 20, 30 minutes, then go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and give you a little Google break, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Let's go. Okay. Let's go. Okay. Let's go. Let's go. Okay.
All right, so I'm back, right? So now that we've had that Google break, I know everybody's thinking, who's been watching up to this point, right? They're thinking, this man is crazy. He believes black people are Romans. Rome was surrounded on all sides by Europeans. We got archaeological evidence. There are statues, just basically the descendants of the Romans, the Italians. The majority of those people, we would say look European or Caucasian, right? And regardless of how much I would want you to believe my theory that there wasn't a Mediterranean sea at the time, and we was able to walk over on dry land to get to the Timberland boot, you understand? But it's okay, because I don't need y'all to believe me, because y'all have the burden of proof that what I'm saying is wrong or incorrect. You can try to pull up some data or facts, or just common sense, right? That's what we're supposed to be dealing in, right? So when you say it is crazy to believe that the ancient Romans are black, my response is, now what about Israel? Now, if we go back and we look at ancient Israel, let's just look at where Israel is first of all located, because I don't think people understand where it was located. But let's get into that. So, if you look at where current Israel is, okay, and we go back to the Noah's Ark, okay, then Israel, Abraham, everybody, all of these people that we deal with in the Bible, when we're talking about the Bible, look at where Israel is in relationship to Egypt. Okay, it's the next state over. It's like if Egypt was Georgia, then Israel was South Carolina. Okay, but when it comes to Israel, then all of a sudden, the same common sense that you just made what I was talking about Rome look insane. Now all of a sudden we start moonwalking. We start, but let me make my point, because I want to go ahead and explain something here. If we're going to say that Hebrews, Jews, whatever term you would like to use, are this rainbow coalition of people, okay, then the only thing that I have to offer tonight, and I got plenty of just common sense approaches to all of this, then why don't we do the same for Israel? Okay, let's think about this. You got a nation, right? And remember, once again, we about to get into strict Kung Fu Hebrew, like I said, people you should be listening to. Don't take my word for it. We just gonna use common sense. And this is just my whole point. And I gotta make sure this is clear, because this is one thing you'll notice on YouTube. Go find your favorite atheist. Go find any atheist out there, right? Any one of them. And see, they will tell you the Bible ain't real. They'll tell you Jesus never existed. They'll tell you all the crazy things that God supposedly wants to do. They'll tell you about contradictions. They'll tell you 1,000,001 things. But you know the one thing I have yet to see one atheist touch? The ethnicity of the people in the Bible. You want me to tell you why? Because they say they're concerned about anti-Semitism. But how could they be concerned about anti-Semitism if Shem is a fictional character? The same way no Roman, right? No Italian believes that their ancestors actually sucked the breast of a she-wolf, and that's where your ancestors come from. However, people who call themselves Jews or Jewish believe in the Torah, in the Bible. They believe they descend from the people in the Bible. And you tell them the Bible ain't real. But you won't even challenge. And that's the question. You have to ask yourself, why is one group of people on the earth you can't even question? Simple, common sense questions. Simple, common sense questions. Because one thing that I see a lot, and if you know what's going on in Israel right now with Palestine and things like that, things get pretty one-sided at times. Very one-sided. Because everybody's talking about all the anti-Semitism going on in Israel. So I sit back and I think to myself and I say, all the anti-Semitism going on in Israel. Well, simple question. If Palestinians are Arabs, would they not descend from Shem? Right? Because don't the majority of Muslims or Arabs believe that they descend from Ishmael, who would be Abraham's firstborn son? So how can you have anti-Semitism with two Semites? Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But I just want to point something out here real quick, because I think a lot of people don't understand the covenant that God made with Abraham, because everybody just believes that it's, well, first of all, we just focus on Israel, but we have to understand that God made a promise to Abraham as well. Now here we go. That's the reason why his name was turned into Abraham from Abram, right? They said, well, you will be the father of many nations, not just one. Father of many nations. So let me show you the part that I want to focus on, because if you remember the territory that God said that Abraham was promised, because the other thing about it is you don't have to listen to it because it's what I say, right? You don't have to listen to it, but if you do believe in the Bible, then we don't want the book to be a lie. So if you look around the middle, as they call it, the Middle East right now, then wasn't Abraham promised areas close to the Euphrates River? Ain't that basically where the majority of, like, the whole Middle East basically is full of Arabs? Full of Arabs. Okay. But let's keep going, because we got to ask some very simple questions. And see, now I want to get my little theme song going here, because I'm about to break this down. And I just want y'all to have some, once again, very simple breakdown of these questions. So let's think about this for a second. The constant interactions with Africa, okay? Think about how many times Israel, or not even Israel, or Hebrews, or people in the Bible interact with Africa. Abraham went into Africa and talked to Pharaoh, okay? Joseph went into Egypt and became basically what we would consider the Grand Vizier of Egypt. But once again, nobody wants to just use common sense, because the thing is, right, now I'm going to give them a little credit, because there is a historian who could kind of lend somewhat credence to what they might want to believe. But this is the question that we have to ask ourselves. When Joseph's brothers came and found him, right? I'm sorry, when they went after the famine, right? Joseph's brothers went into Egypt, the land of the pharaohs, these jet black people. And you're telling me if Joseph looked like Jerry Seinfeld, but he just had on, in quotation marks, an Egyptian like wardrobe on, you're telling me they would have looked up there and said, this Grand Vizier don't look like the rest of Egypt? But they didn't do that. They said they didn't recognize him because they were using the interpreter. And I'm pretty sure he probably cut his hair and did some other things that I'll get into. But we don't want to use any common sense as far as the Bible is concerned, right? Let's just think about that. Moses grew up in the house of Pharaoh. I already told you in my other videos which Pharaoh, that you can go and confirm it right now. There's a Pharaoh that's in my other video that had 2 sons. One died before his firstborn died and never took the throne. The second son listed, ironically, name is Amen Moses, right? He was the leader or general of the Egyptian armies. And then his third son, which carries his name, right, eventually took the throne. So you're going to have to go back and watch the other videos to see who I'm talking about. Solomon, right? Solomon had constant interactions with Pharaoh, with the king of Tyre, all these other people. Jesus, Yeshua, Yahushua, Yehoshua, whatever you want to call him, the Messiah. Entire family go into Egypt to hide. But once again, it's because you have to understand, and this is just one thing I will ask you to do. Look at a lot of your Egyptologists, right? What is their ethnic background? The majority of the time, they're Jewish. Let me tell you why. Because they wanted to be the first ones to open up those pyramids and hopefully see what they have been getting taught for thousands, possibly years. I don't know, hundreds, thousands of years, right? Hundreds of thousands of years, whenever, right? They wanted to open up that pyramid and see their ancestors on them walls. And if you notice, so far, because if you look at anything on Google, they will say there is no archaeological evidence for an exodus. There is no archaeological evidence that the Jews were ever enslaved in Egypt. Okay? Another interaction. Y'all didn't find it odd in the New Testament that a random Enoch from Ethiopia came up to the disciples like, hey, what y'all doing? Like, a lot of this stuff just don't make we're not thinking just because we feel like if we want to ask questions, it's not acceptable, but we got to be able to use common sense at all. Because like they said, that God is not a God of what? Confusion. Trying to figure out how this makes sense. And once again, I already say I don't have no affiliation with them dudes that y'all see, them dudes that was outside of Barclays Center, them dudes that y'all see in the subway. No affiliation whatsoever. So you can't try to hit me with any of those type of allegations. My only thought is, because I'm sitting there saying, is it possible that there could be multiple ethnicities of Jews? Absolutely. But just looking at this map, looking at where Egypt is, and then looking at where Israel is, it now becomes confusing to say the majority of the Jews don't look like the people from that area. It doesn't make any sense. But once again, I'm going to have to show you the historical receipts. And even after I show you the historical receipts, you're not going to listen. You're not going to understand. But it's fine. I'm still going to put it out there. And that's all I can do. Israelites being mistaken / passing for Egyptians. Just went over Joseph. Just went over Moses. And then you had Jesus, Mary, and Joseph in Egypt hiding from Herod. In Egypt. Land of people that was probably that color. But don't worry about it. Where my boy at? Where my boy at? Because I need to bring him out, Even though we can look at it, nobody would argue about the ethnicity of ancient Egypt, even though they're trying to do that right now. You have to understand the reason why they're trying to whitewash Egypt. It's because they have to. Because if they don't lighten Egypt up, then their whole entire premise of what they're talking about makes no sense. But watch this. But, once again.
Don't ask. I said don't ask. I said don't ask. No question.
Let's keep going. Leprosy, right? Leprosy in the Bible, the term or the way it is described in the Bible is you are turned what? As white as snow. So the question is, if you was turned as white as snow, then what color were you before? Now, the term that you like to hear a lot is, oh, well, they were olive skin. What color olives? I done seen olives darker than me. What color olives are y'all seeing? Because if you go to Subway, them olives pretty black. So if you saying Subway colored olives, I agree. But Moses, right? God said he was basically asking God, when I go to the Israelites, now you gotta understand, he ain't gonna have no big like at the Cowboys Stadium. He ain't gonna have no big projector up, right? He's gonna probably go try to find the highest place he can to go talk to thousands and thousands of people at one time. And you telling me he gonna take a olive skin hand, put it in his bosom, and bring it out, and it's white as snow, and people will be like, wow, come on, man. Like, this is not that difficult. And the one thing you also have to understand is what leprosy means or what leprosy identified. Because you have to ask yourself one common theme of a lot of ancient civilizations. What did they worship? The main god, the main deity of basically any ancient civilization was what? The sun. So your ability, or you understand what I'm saying? Your ability to be out in the sun would show that God blessed you. Now I know people, oh my God, he's trying to say white. It's not what I'm saying, because y'all blessing is obvious as well. Get to that, but it ain't for the lesson tonight. The only thing I'm telling you is based on ancient civilizations. Why do you think so many people were drawn to the Egyptians? Because they were dark-skinned people, right? But they weren't doing things like the Egyptians. So you had these people who looked like they were blessed by God because they were that dark, right? So let's look at Moses, right? So we saw that. Miriam, what happens? She questioned Moses about his Cushite wife. So what I was told when I grew up was, see, Moses was a cool dude. He had a black wife. Meaning that Moses was white and he had a black wife. So Miriam was racist. So because she was racist, then God turned her whiter. Doesn't make a lot of sense, right? 2 chapters in the book of Leviticus in the law in the Israel legal code. 2 chapters are dedicated to what happened if you start to lose your pigment. 2 chapters. Okay? And then also other cultures also feared loss of pigmentation as well. So let me keep going because there's so many things I'm about to bring up. Watch this. Surrounded on all sides. So you say, well, if you go north, you got the Hittites, right? They weren't white. If you go to Assyria, they weren't white. If you go over to the Elamites, right? Now the Elamites, all the way on the other side of Saudi Arabia, right? Kind of heading towards India. Well, what did the Elamites look like? But let me just read the slide. It says, Israel was completely surrounded on all sides by Hamitic lines. Now, everybody, and when you went to church, nobody's pastor taught you that Ham was light-skinned. Everybody who went to church, it don't matter, white, black, whatever type of church you went, Ham has never been debated. Never been debated who Ham was. It's always been black, African, dark people. So what we got to do is we got to say, well, do we have any pictures of any of these people? So let's see. Elam seems like it was pretty far away, right? It is the furthest kingdom away, like in this scenario, right? So let's see what did the Elamite look like. So there you go. This is from the Darius's palace in Susa, right? I believe right now that's either in Iraq or Iran. You can go see this. If you Google Elamites in Darius, in the palace of Darius, you'll see these men. Beard, I don't know what type of hair they got, but there's no way around the fact that these are dark brown. Nobody's thinking these are white people. And this was the people furthest outside of the area, right? But let's keep going. Skin cancer rates. Skin cancer rates. Now, I don't know if you can really see that or not, but these skin, like, let's just knock South America off. But what does America and Canada have a lot of? What does Europe have a lot of? What does Australia and New Zealand have a lot of? And out of all the countries in Africa, which one has the most European? Just happens to be the one with the highest level of skin cancer. Now, this slide isn't as good as I wanted to, but if you kind of strain your eyes, if you got your phone, man, and you can zoom in right there, you see that little bit of red in the Middle East? What country do you think that is? So what you're trying to tell me is God's chosen people don't want them to go outside in their own homeland? That's what you're telling me? So God is just punishing his people, right? Once again, God is not an author of confusion, so why are we complicating this stuff? It's not that complicated. And you don't have to be anti-Semitic to start talking about all these other things, but I got to bring up some obvious things that we got to talk about. The Babylonian Talmud and the Midrash, all right? So, in the Bereshit Rabbah 36 and 7, it basically talks about Ham. And see, it basically said Ham was cursed with dark skin, okay? Because allegedly he had sex on the ark. And I don't know, I guess after the Bible, because, you know, there are always these books people like writing after the Bible or after these holy scriptures, right? So there's these extra books that men write. And apparently in this book, it either said Ham either had sex with a dog or he had sex with his wife on a boat, and they weren't supposed to have sex on the boat. So he was cursed with dark skin, okay? So that's basically the reason why I put that up here. Let's keep going. Let's see if we got any other evidence here. Herodotus, Diodorus Siculus, and Greek historians, right? So this is how Herodotus viewed the world. You got Libya, right? We know where Egypt is. Next to that, you got Arabia, Asia, Europe. That's basically about it, right? So first of all, let me share my screen here. Let me stop presenting this. So let me stop this. And now what I want to do is I want to share my screen, because I just don't want to tell you about something. I want you to be able to see it for yourself, right? So now we got to see, what did Herodotus say about black people? For it is plain to see that the Colchians are Egyptians. And what I say I myself noted before I remember it from others. When it occurred to me, I inquired of both peoples. And the Colchians remembered the Egyptians better than the Egyptians remembered the Colchians. The Egyptians said that they considered the Colchians part of Sesostris' army. I myself guessed it partly because they are dark-skinned and woolly-haired. Now, some people love saying, well, he didn't say black. Okay, well, they were. I can tell you who ain't dark-skinned and woolly-haired. How about that? All right. And then it says, though that indeed counts for nothing, since other people are too. So right now, Herodotus is saying we got Egyptians and we got Colchians that are dark-skinned and woolly-haired. Let's keep reading. But my better proof was that the Colchians and the Ethiopians and the Egyptians and Ethiopians are the only nations that have from the first practiced circumcision. The Phoenicians and the Syrians of, there go that word that nobody says exists. There go that country that nobody says exists. But once again, this is from Herodotus, Syrians of Palestine, acknowledge that they learned the custom from the Egyptians, and the Syrians of the valleys of the Thermodon and the Parthenius, as well as their neighbors, the Macrones, say they learned it lately from the Colchians. These are the only nations that circumcise, and it's seen that they do just as the Egyptians. Okay? Now, we got to ask ourselves now, so let me just go ahead while I got this open. Where is Colchis? Colchis is all the way up there in western Georgia. Not where I'm from, but Georgia in what is now Georgia in Europe. So it touches the Black Sea. So if Herodotus is telling you Egypt, black people woolly hair, all the way up to the Colchis, right below the Caucasus Mountains, black people woolly hair, and then you go east and you got, come on, man, you got black hair, woolly hair people who practice circumcision in Palestine, where they claim don't exist. There are Syrians in Palestine who are black haired, dark skinned, woolly haired, and practice circumcision. But yet and still, we will let the most non-black haired and the non-circumcised people do that. All right, so let's keep going. So let's see what this other guy had to say about black people. Here we go, right here. Now let me see what part of this that I want to read. Wait a minute. So let me see. So once again, this is one of these ancient writers again, basically describing the people that he saw. Well, I did have this. I think it was just basically talking about the you know what? I'm gonna come back to this because now I can't find it. So let me see. Hopefully I'm still sharing this screen. All right, here we go. Now, this is the same guy. This is Diodorus Siculus again. Now, the Egyptians say that after these events, a great number of colonies were spread from Egypt over all the inhabited world. Okay, so now Egyptians are taking credit for all people. Okay, but let's see which ones they specifically reference. To Babylon, for instance, colonists were led by Belus, who was held to be the son of Poseidon and Libya. And after establishing himself on what river? The Euphrates River, he appointed priests called what? Chaldeans. Now, please tell me, anybody who reads the Bible, where does Moses supposedly come from? I'm sorry, Abraham. Doesn't it say Abraham came out of Mesopotamia, out of Ur of the Chaldees? Don't the Bible say that? But once again, it's not going to matter because somebody's going to do it. But let's keep reading. Who were exempt from taxation and free from every kind of service to the state. And they also make observations of the stars, following the example of the Egyptian priest, physicist, and astrologer. Okay? They also say, who set forth with Danaus, likewise from Egypt, settled what is practically the oldest city of Greek Argos, and that the nation of Colchi and Pontus and that of the Jews, which lies between Arabia and Syria, were founded as colonies by certain immigrants, E-M, not I-M, E-M migrants from their country. So right there, this is a historian from over 2,000 years ago saying Egypt claimed to have had colonies in Babylon, the area of Colchis, which I already showed you was Georgia, and that of the Jews, which lies between Arabia and Syria. But once again, it's not going to matter because you're only going to see what you want to see. All right, let's see. Last one. My boy, Flavius Josephus, right? You Google him, one of the the greatest Jewish historian ever. Okay? Now, I wanted to focus right here on section 4. Listen to what Josephus says. Jacob, encouraged by this dream, went on more cheerfully for Egypt with his sons and all belonging to them. Now they were in all 70. Okay. I once indeed thought it was best not to set down the names of this family, especially because of their difficult pronunciation by the Greeks. But upon the whole, I think it necessary to mention those names that I may disprove, such as believe that we came not originally out of Mesopotamian, but are Egyptians. Let me read that last part once again. This guy wrote this in the 1st century AD, that I may disprove such as believe that we came not originally from Mesopotamia, which wouldn't matter because based on what the other historian said who was before Josephus, Mesopotamia, Ur of the Chaldeans, still would have been a colony of Egypt. All right, originally from Mesopotamia, but are Egyptians. So once again, it's going to be fact after fact after fact after fact after fact after historian. You could argue with those historians because I didn't make that up. Okay, so once again, if you want to check it yourself, that's the Histories by Herodotus and the Bibliotheca Historica. Non-biblical Jewish traditions, right? So if you look at these things, like first of all, the thing that they put on their heads, right? I'm not quite sure what that's called because once again, I don't know what these non-biblical Jewish traditions are. But they put that on their head and they say that somebody, it's not in the Torah, right? It's nowhere in the Torah because I believe it's in the New Testament that it actually says any man who covers his head disgraces his head. That's the verse that's telling a woman that, it's better that she cut her hair off if she doesn't cover her head. So once again, we're in conflict. Okay. If you look at that rabbi, he is trying to stop the bleeding of a circumcision. Okay. Nowhere in the Torah, nowhere in the Levitical law does it ever say the priests are supposed to put their mouths on a baby's penis, right? And not even going there, right? A bar mitzvah. Where is that anywhere in the Bible? Somebody pointed out, I don't want to hear, when Isaac weaned off his mother. That's a stretch for y'all to have all of these things that go on and it don't have no explanation in the Bible about what you're supposed to do. And last, the haircut. Now there is in the Bible a dress code. So you have to ask yourself, why do they have suits on and top hats and things like that? When like me, right? I wear fringes, right? So doesn't make me any better than anybody. Do I have any fringes right here? Nope, I don't have any right here, but fringes, right? I think that's Numbers 15 and 38. So you put fringes in the border of your garment with a ribbon of blue, right? If you go back to the story of Jesus, when it said the lady touched the hem of his garment, if you go into any other translation besides the King James, it says she touched the fringe, or she grabbed his tassel, or she grabbed his tzitzit. All right. So Jesus was walking around with fringes on. So all you so-called Christians that claim to be Christians, that claim to follow Christ, I'm not saying it's mandatory for you to put fringes on, but if you're saying you follow Christ, that's what he did. But that's a whole nother thing. Then it also tells you not to bulge your head and do things like that. But once again, this is a legal code Moses had to identify. Let me tell you why. Because in my opinion, I believe this is the reason why circumcision came in, because it said to separate his posterity. Okay. So basically saying if you was a slave and you was stripped down butt naked and we got all these black people everywhere, not based on your language, not based on anything else. Oh, he's circumcised. He's got to be a Jew. Simple. But the bald in your head, you got to ask yourself, what culture or what group of people that live right next door was famous for having bald heads? The Egyptians. The same reason why I said don't cut the side of your beard. Because if you go back to that other, the little pharaoh, little chin, we've seen all the pictures of the pharaoh. So they said they wanted you to have a beard so you could look differently from the Egyptians. Once again, this is not rocket science. Lastly, right, a lot of people who have now thrown a nice little Star of David, a nice little Israeli flag in your bio, right? A nice little Israeli flag in your on your profile pic, right? What you're telling me is these people have been removed from their homeland for thousands of years. And then after the events of 1948, right? After getting billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in aid, reparations, and all of those different things, right? Still ain't rebuilt the temple, right? No temple built at all. But they got time to, based on, you got to remember, I have heard homosexuals argue with grace in the New Testament that you can be a Christian and be a homosexual, right? It ain't no room for homosexuality anywhere in the Torah. If you go into Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, they destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because, I mean, I don't even have to get into all of that. But what I'm saying is the same people who don't even believe in your Messiah, they tell you, go on YouTube and type in Jewish people talking about Jesus and see what they got to say. They don't believe in Jesus. They don't believe he existed. They don't believe he was a real person. Get into the Talmud, and see what it says about Jesus. It's not good. But once again, because y'all gotta feel like I'm a Christian, I go to church, I read a book about Israel. Which Israel are you supporting? And you gotta ask yourself, if these people was out of their land for 2,000 years for disobedience, this is what you got to understand. Every time something normally happens bad to Israel, right? What they say? It's because of disobedience. And you telling me within the first 70 years of being home, they say, you know what? We need to do something that goes against the laws and statutes of commandments. And this is the reason why we got took out of the land in the first place. But let's have a big pride rally because what? So once again, let me just be very clear. Let me make sure. Let me go ahead and close it out because pause with all this stuff on here. But let me go ahead and be very clear. Very clear. I'm not saying all Jews are black. I'm not saying all black people in America are Hebrew Israelites or none of that stuff. Because anybody who's ever watched my thing, I don't rock with none of that quote unquote Hebrew Israelite doctrine. None of it. We can follow the laws. That's about where we end. Once you get into Esau, we done, right? We pretty much got to end at that point because it's too much stuff going on. But let me just put myself on camera and be very, very clear. I'm not saying all Jews are black. My only question is, why do we only listen to one set of Jews? You got Mizrahi Jews who've been in the Middle East for thousands of years. But the only Jews you listen to are Ashkenazi. Why is that? Spielberg, Ashkenazi Jew. Scarlett Johansson, Ashkenazi Jew. Larry David, Ashkenazi Jew. Seinfeld, all of the I don't know about Bernie Sanders. I ain't gonna try to put him in. But the majority of the people who moved back during the right of return, Ashkenazi Jews. They look at Israel right now. It's not a rainbow coalition of people. They took one set of the Jews, right? And the one thing that you don't even want to take the time out to consider is simple biblical things, right? They call themselves Ashkenazi, the Ashkenazim. If you go back and read the Table of Nations in Genesis, Ashkenaz was descended out of Japhet, not Shem, right? But now, all of a sudden, anti-Semitism don't apply to nobody, but basically Ashkenazi Jews. It makes no sense, right? Because let me show you something, right? And this is the part that people, once again, it don't matter. Exodus 12:38. And a mixed multitude went up also with them, and flocks and herds, even very much cattle. A mixed multitude left Egypt because if they went in with 70 people and they came out with at least 600,000 fighting men, right? Who was they mixing with? Jet black Egyptian. But once again, it don't matter, right? Because you're going to try to make it seem like it was, oh, they was just with each other. Okay. So they was just with each other then, right? Okay. Well, let me pull up Leviticus then. Let's see what this said. All right. Where am I at here? Oh, just real quick in Leviticus, right? Now, this is stereotypes, but I didn't create these stereotypes. But there are certain physical characteristics that people claim, right, that these people have. But let's go ahead and see if any of these would apply, because this is what the law says about the priesthood. It says, speak unto Aaron, saying, whosoever be of thy seed in their generations that hath any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his God. For whatsoever man he be that hath a blemish, he shall not approach. A blind man, or a lame, or he that hath a flat nose, or anything superfluous, or a man that is broken-footed, or broken-handed, or crook-back, or a dwarf, or that has a blemish in his eye, or be scurvy or scabbed, or hath his stones broken. No man that has a blemish of the seed of Aaron, the priest shall come nigh to the offerings of the Lord made by fire. He hath a blemish, he shall not come nigh to offer the bread of his God. What stereotypes do they say about those people? Not what I'm saying. I'm saying what people have been saying technically, historically, for not necessarily thousands of years, right? But what are some of the stereotypes? Seems like that would have negated them from at least being Levites, right? Let's go again. I'm about to finish it up here. When you start talking about the tribes of Israel, you have Manasseh and Ephraim. They were referred to as the half tribes. Why were they referred to as the half tribes? Because they were half Egyptian. But it's like, we just want to ignore. 24:10 says, and the son of an Israelite woman. There goes that ish, right? It's funny how it is. There goes that ish again, right? The son of an Israelite woman whose father was what? An Egyptian. So that tells you when they came out of Egypt, they were mixing. But once again, I'm supposed to believe that at the far end of the spectrum, that's where the majority of Israel or the Jew. Once again, it doesn't make any sense. All right. And let me go ahead and finish this up. All right. So I had another one that was basically talking about all the black women. All right. All of the confirmed black women in the Bible. Right. We know Abraham and Isaac. Right. Isaac's mother was Egyptian. We know that. Nobody debates that. If you look at Arabs, when I showed you that map of all the skin cancer rate, guess who ain't having no problems with skin cancer? All the Ishmael's homies ain't having no problems. Saudi Arabia ain't having no problems with no skin cancer. You understand what I'm saying? But all of a sudden, once again, the majority of so-called Israel, so-called Jews, is supposed to look at like the opposite end of the spectrum. It makes no sense. Solomon had an Egyptian wife. Esau had two Canaanites, which he already explained were African women, and he had a daughter of Ishmael. So you Hebrew Israelites who say Esau is the so-called white man, you got to explain to me how Esau had three wives, two Canaanites, and whatever you believe Abraham to be, and his mama was an Egyptian. And then Ishmael went and got an Egyptian wife, and that's where the 12 sons of Ishmael come from. It doesn't make any sense, ladies and gentlemen. You can try to sit here and argue with me all you want to, but it still don't change the fact that none of this stuff that we have been taught to believe about who these people are doesn't make any sense. And it was funny, right? So this is the last thing I want to share with you, right? And now, because this talks about, y'all, we want to talk about the Messiah, right? So I want to show you something. Because, once again, I'm not going to front. It becomes harder and harder and harder and harder. The New Testament, it's It's a difficult thing for me at times, right? But I just want to show you this last thing because me and my sister was talking about this. Check this out. We got the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Okay, simple question out there, Bible scholars, Christians. Who carried the cross? And what is this supposed to be? This is supposed to be an eyewitness account. So watch this. Mark, and they compelled one Simon, a Cyrenian, who passed by coming out of the country, the father of Alexander and Rufus, to bear his cross. First of all, nobody's arguing that Cyrene is in the middle of Libya, so everybody believes a black man carried the cross for Jesus. I believe that should be the thought. Luke 23:26. And as they led him away, they laid hold upon one Simon, a Cyrenian, coming out of the country, and on him they laid the cross that he might bear it after Jesus. Okay? So, if I type in Cyrene, Matthew, and as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled him to bear his cross. So Matthew, Mark, and Luke all say a black man carried the cross, basically, right? An African man carried the cross. But what does John say? So watch this. So let's go ahead and get into John real quick. And let's see who carried the cross in John. So if you get into Matthew 19, let's see what verse is that. Here it is. Verse 16, then delivered he and them, therefore unto them to be crucified, and they took Jesus and led him away. And he, bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of a skull, which is called in the Hebrew Golgotha. So you got three books that say black dude carried it. In the book of John, it says he carried the cross himself. And if you don't believe me, then let's just see. That would be verse 17, right? Okay, so let's just go to other translations. And let's see if they say, let's see, in all the English translations, let's see what we got. And he bearing his cross, capitalized H, they took Jesus therefore, and he went out bearing the cross for himself. So they took Jesus and he went out bearing his own cross. I mean, how many times do I have to read the CSB? Carrying the cross by himself. Carrying the cross by himself. And he carried his cross to a place known. And he went out bearing his cross. So now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as I bring this thing to a close, you have to ask yourself a question. Is the Bible incorrect? Is this a contradiction? Are the atheists going to win now? Because guess what? We got 3 saying, oh, you had a Simon of Cyrene carry it. And the other one, you said, Jesus carried it by himself. Now, what you could ask yourself is, they say we all look alike. I'm just saying. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's where I want to leave y'all tonight. Wait, no, I don't. My bad. I forgot I had one more little thing I got to tell you, right? And this is just one of these testaments. Now, I'm reading out the Apocrypha, right? And I just want to read you one quick thing. And this is called the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs. And I just want to just read this one little thing, right? Chapter 2. This is Naphtali speaking. And I was swift on my feet like a deer. And my father Jacob appointed me for all messages, and he gave me his blessing as a deer. So, sounds like Naphtali was a fast individual, right? Same thing was said about the guy who got killed, I believe, for chasing after, was it Abner? Yep, he was chasing after Abner. Abner said, stop following me. But he was so fast, he basically had to end up killing him because of that. So once again, you have to ask yourself, look at the children of Israel. It said, dude, I believe that's in 1 Kings, he raced a deer. Now, you can use whatever stereotypes you want, but if we're talking about speed, and we're talking about being in physical labor in the sun for hundreds and hundreds of years. I ain't even get a chance to get into Deuteronomy tonight. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's no point, right? Because I didn't even get a chance to get into Deuteronomy 28 because, like I said, I'm going longer than I wanted to, but you have to be able to understand this for yourself. He raced the deer and won. If the people who say they the people, if you believe that identifies them, if they are people of hard labor working out in the sun 30 miles north of Egypt, then ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I mean, they can have y'all believe anything. So once again, I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna end for tonight. I'm not saying, it's like what they say, I'm not saying all Jews are white, black, Arab, whatever the case may be. All I'm saying is, based on physical location, based on all the history I gave you, based on they saying Abraham was going to, what they say about his descendants, right? Stars in the sky. The stars in the sky will not be able to number them, right? Let's just think about this. So I'm just gonna Google let's just Google this real quick, and then I'm gonna shut it down. I promise. I know I done went a little longer tonight, but what is the worldwide Jewish population? As of 2023, it says the world's core, in quotation marks, Jewish population was estimated at 16.1 million people. So worldwide, the Jewish population has less people than Negroes in America. So based on, unless we're going to make the Bible a lie, right? Now, the people who want to say that the Negroes in America are Israel, they have a better claim. Why? Because they have more people. Why? That would make them more fitting to match the actual prophecy and promise of God. So unless God is a liar, either A, more people need to be added to the tent, or B, you can just continue to believe the way you've been believing, continue to ignore the obvious thing, continue to ignore the high skin cancer rate, continue to ignore all the rest of Abraham's children don't look like them. None of them. Look at all them Arabs. None of them look like, you got to understand, Jews come from Isaac, right? You know the story. I don't have to break that down again. But once again, I appreciate those who have hung in for this show tonight. I've appreciated everybody tuning in. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. I got a good show coming for you next week. Let me just go ahead and put that back up real quick, and I'll tell you what I will talk about. Where did Moses find a random Cushite wife in the middle of the wilderness? That's what I'm going to be talking about next week, because I don't know if you ever thought about it, but I thought it was kind of random. Like, once again, these are things that you don't think about. You've got a group of white people in the middle of the desert, and then all of a sudden Moses is in between, making sure the people are fed, in between handling disputes. A random black woman they just get married. All of, like, you never just thought that. Well, what was an Ethiopian doing in the middle of the desert? Like, why was she with? See, once again, you got to think outside the box, because these things don't make sense. But like I said, man, I really enjoyed this teaching tonight, man. Hopefully, nobody takes the first half when I was talking about the Romans, but somebody might start a code of that, and they be like, we was Romans. So if you see like Panini Gang or we was Romans trending on Twitter, I'm sorry. It wasn't my intention. It was a joke to basically prove, like, if black people were wrong. I know that there are people that say black people was in Rome. I'm not saying they weren't. I'm not saying the majority of the Romans were black. That's what I'm not saying, right? That's what I said tonight. But in real life reality, now that we're back, that's not what I think, right? But I understand there were people there, but there are people out there who believe that the ancient Romans, or the Romans that even Julius, they actually believe that. So once again, yeah. Y'all be blessed. Y'all have a good night. Until next time, been the Kung Fu Hebrew Soul G. I'm out.